I mean, the lack of engagement by two governments is the reason we are at this impasse. We had the attempts in relation to dealing with the past and dealing with flags and the issues that the US government got involved in, and we had those failed talks, but there wasn't substantive engagement. There was some, but you need high-level engagement by the Prime Minister and the Taoiseach to resolve those issues. But that's not really what is of concern to the citizens of Northern Ireland. What's of concern to the citizens of Northern Ireland are the issues that affect their daily lives, which were being proposed by the Tory government in terms of the cuts to social welfare and services in the north and the block grants. And to a large degree, this issue that has been brought forward now and is causing the collapse of the structures in the north is being used by both sides to get away from what affects people's lives all day, every day in the north. And that is a consequence of the Stormont House Agreement, and now we have a political crisis, largely created by politicians for their own ends. But if the ordinary citizen in the north is concerned, Catholics, Protestant, Unionist, Nationalist, is concerned about the cuts that are coming their way, and yet politics has failed them in that regard, and they haven't engaged in that. And I agree with my colleagues that the North is a special case in relation to the block grant, and I know the arguments being made by the Tory MPs that they're getting more proportionately than Scotland and Wales. But I don't really care, because the North is a special case. If we want to have a peace dividend, then we need to invest more in that regard. But when it comes to the past, and when it comes to the issues in relation to dealing with the past, in relation to dealing with parades, in relation to dealing with flags, the engagement has been appalling by the British government. They have refused to hand over the files in relation to the largest bombing, the biggest mass murder in the history of this state, which was the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, which happened not a mile from this House. And the Judge Barron report is quite clear and unequivocal. It could not have happened without the assistance of the British Army and the British security forces. 1 in 3 of the deaths in the north were as a result of loyalist paramilitary with the assistance of the British security forces. And that's the past. But we can't move forward until the British government, the current British government, agree to hand over files. But that is not going to solve the current impasse, because the current impasse, if the Minister, and I'd like to hear his response, the real issue here is the Stormont House Agreement was going to cause political problems for all sorts of parties in the north. And the British government need to give more funding for it, because whatever amount of funding they will have to give in order to solve the problems, and I'm talking about the social welfare cuts that were being proposed, is nothing compared to the costs that would have to be incurred by this situation in relation to paramilitaries and the troubles reigniting. And what we are asking for is the Taoiseach and the Prime Minister to get involved at the highest level, and the Stormont House Agreement being renegotiated, and obviously the immediate issue in relation to the IRA being examined, and a solution is there and it can be resolved. But it has been used by both sides and all sides to try and distract from the real issues of the day-to-day lives and improving the day-to-day lives of the citizens in the north of Ireland and ensuring that they can go about their normal business. Most of this is to a large degree being used for political purposes, but long-term engagement by the Prime Minister in England and by the Taoiseach, and sustained engagement, not when there's a crisis, but a long-term commitment to ensuring the solutions that are required to keep the peace in the north are achieved. And dealing with the past, dealing with flags, parades are part of that. But the Stormont House Agreement and whatever funding is required from the British Exchequer to ensure that the stability that we've seen over the last number of years is maintained, I think is something that the government need to pursue. Thank you, Cahill.